We're glad to have you back. Nigeria is currently facing severe food inflation crisis that has left thousands struggling to meet basic needs. One significant driver behind rising food inflation is the recent removal of subsidy, which has led to increase in transportation costs. Well, according to the NBS, food inflation surged to 40.87% in June 2024 as prices, beans, tomatoes, Irish potatoes, Garri, yam, and other food items witnessed significant price increases. Let's put this into perspective. I'm being joined live in the studio by food security expert, Africa Farmer Mogaji. Good afternoon, and it's good to have you live in the studio.
Good afternoon. Good to be here again.
Well, it's 40.87%. We were at 40.66% in May, and we see this sharp increase. Inflation on its own stands at 34.19%. How do we put all of this side by side? What are the fundamentals still responsible for the hike in price of foodstuff? I guess we're supposed to be getting to harvest season at this time.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Well, about 11 months ago, I was having these conversations with you, and I did say that, if you can recall, that the Minister of Agriculture will need quite a number, about 10 to 14 special advisors. I did say that then, but many people did not know how challenging the sector was, and that we have to put a lot of things together at the same time. You know, food production is different from food security. Food production is the cultivation, the rearing. The security is the integration of factors both in production, environmental, economic, culture, and even foreign. Okay, so the security component of food, we've not gotten it right in the country, both government and private sector. Food security is not, we don't have that holistic approach to it. We are focused a lot on food production. If we are to be food secure, a lot of things have to happen at the same time. We won't just take rice, the way we want to do rice. Another administration, we want to do cassava. We have to be doing rice, cassava, yam, potato, pineapple, pawpaws. We have to be doing all those. Do we have the facilities to do that fairly? Do we have the human capital? Yes. So food security needs to be secure. We need to look at food security like we approach insurgency, like we approach banditry. We're still talking about food security as food production, not as security. The budgets, the activities, the human capital deployed, we're still not food secure because we're still not taking food security like other security.
That holistic approach is what we need to highlight today because, like I said, even to my first guest, I think it's time for fast solutions, suggestions that can make things work other than always, because we know that some of these problems didn't just start today.
Yes.
That's the clear picture.
Yes.
They didn't just start today. So we need to make people understand that these things have been happening. We just need to correct them and get it right. So let's start with the issue of distribution of grains and all. Many will say that really won't solve the problem. But what do you think when government decides to do go on gestures like that?
Well, it's good. It's good, but it's not great. It's good. It's a good thing to do for governments to want the citizens.
Interventions, right?
Interventions to be okay. But in terms of sustainability, it's not sustainable when it's not backed up with massive production. There's a lot of conversation and incentives to go into production. But like I said also, I believe there's a paradigm that we're not approaching. And I've always been saying this. Nigeria will not be food secure when we are focusing on poverty alleviation. Nigeria will be food secure when we are focusing on prosperity. Now, if we focus on the monies that can be made, both profit and impact in the agri sector, we would have many people come on board. Currently now, we're trying to eradicate poverty, and because we're trying to eradicate poverty, trying to make food available without really engaging private sector, letting them see the numbers, irrespective of the security challenges. That is a missing link. You know, many a times we think that we have to change the system to change our outcomes. No. We don't necessarily have to change the system to change our outcome. We can change our outcomes without changing the systems. The Chinese come to Nigeria. The Indians come to Nigeria. They don't want you to change your policies. They don't want you to change your laws. They adapt
to it,
and they excel.
Yeah.
Have you seen Indians move out of Nigeria saying that we're selling out and we're moving? No, it doesn't happen. They are always there for the long term. They're always there for 30, 40, 50 years when they are starting. That is the mindset we Nigerians need to adopt, the Chinese and the Indian mentality that come what may, no matter how bad it is, we are going to make it and we're going to make it good. Mindset is a major challenge around here. We don't have the right mindset. It's always a quick fix, not long term.
Do we have the required manpower to do this? To feed 200 million persons? It's no joke.
We have more than enough manpower to feed. I always say this. We have everything we need in this country to feed Nigerians. What we don't have is Nigerians taking advantage of the opportunities to feed Nigerians. Now, what do I mean by that? When we talk about the human capital, are we talking about researchers? We have them. We can talk about research institutes not adequately funded. But the research in which they've completed, that is gathering dust, like I always say, is there. We need to scale. We're not promoting. We need to have more investment platforms where we are pushing the opportunities, say in corn, say in tomatoes, say in Irish potatoes. We are not pushing the business side of it. We're looking too much across levels on foreign investment, foreign investment, foreign investment. Foreign investment and government cannot feed Nigeria or Nigerians. It is local investments from you and I that will unlock it. The patronage, the patriotism of you and I is what will unlock it. Yes, some may say, oh, we've lost money over time. That's how the game is. You lose money, you make money. Eventually, you master it and you move forward. For us to feed this country, we used to have about 6 major players feeding Nigeria in the 60s and 70s. This is a shift that I see that many people are not talking about. So we have government, we have individuals, we have the banks, we have cooperatives, we have the corporate institutions. We have about 6 of them. Now, in the last 10, 15 years, we mostly have governments and individuals, very few corporates. The banks no longer fund agric except they get some funding. Okay, so when 6 people...
Because of the risk?
Not because of the risk. The banks themselves are not investing in portfolios. Most of the banks are not well equipped in terms of staff. They don't have the staffs. They have more staffs in head offices, one person covering a region. So the banks are not investing. Yes, they say it's risky. Yes, it's risky. But if there's a COVID and oil is not moving again and agric is moving, agric is where we go. So bottom line is that 6 institutions have moved out for 2. And because we have 2, there's a lot of pressure on the 2 right now. And that's why we're not food secure. The 6th one is the religious institutions. The religious institutions used to have heavy investments in agric. We have so many denominations as Christians and so many societies as Muslims. Everyone had commercial farms at local government, at ward level, at national level. Those have disappeared in the last 15 years. Right now, we need more religious institutions to come on board. NASFAT is in every state and every local government. They have functional system and institutions. You have Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria. You have Christian Association of Nigeria. They're in every state, every local government. They have systems functioning more than even government. So how come we cannot deploy these things? I would say this, and I'm beginning to raise this campaign. If Jesus were to be alive today, he would not be saying people should go to government. If Prophet Muhammad were to be alive today, he would not be sending people to government. So how come the religious institutions in Nigeria today are only pointing at government, forgetting that we have 4 other fingers pointing to us. So we need to, the religious institutions work directly with the people, not government. Yeah. Every Friday today, we are Jumat. Every Sunday, we are in churches. It is the churches that feel the challenges the most, but the church is pointing to government. And instead of collaborating with government, we need the religious institutions to come on board again. Until the religious institutions begin to come on board, they even have some funding that, religious institutions have long-term projects. All of them can unlock part of these projects for us to begin to feed this country. It has to be something we have to do together. Government cannot feed this country alone. Private sector needs to do.
As usual, it's always interesting chatting with you. Now, let's look at the weather issue. We're supposed to still be in the rains. And you're already smiling because you know what I want to know. How would this stoppage we've had and all of that affect the expected harvest?
This climate is going to have a negative impact on food security and availability. You recall earlier in the year, the rains were not stable across the country, so it delayed production. Right now, we are having a lot of this, the weather is very cool. It will bring something, and it's actually showing up now. For the potatoes, it's bringing in what you call late blight. It comes with cool, when the weather is excessively cool. And also it will affect tomatoes also because late blight also affects tomatoes. So, and when we have August break in July, mostly like mid-July, what normally happens is that we would have heavy rainfall, which is predicted to affect 31 states, okay? And that's when they open the windows of the dams across the country. And that's when, the Cameroon dams, the Keregoj Dam, the Dadenkoa Dam, all the dams will be opened very soon. And as they open that, it will flood away most of the lowland production. So bottom line, climate change is a challenge, but climate change is not responsible for what we have. But October, November, like I always say, we can still be proactive. Just a few weeks from now, if we take the right steps, we can still be food secure. We don't need more than 6 months. The remaining part of this year, I know, I'm not just being optimistic, I know by data and facts that we can still drop food by 50%. People will say, oh, it's not possible, but it has been done many times in this country.
I think that needs to be deliberate. There will be some things that need to really be done.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds really good. While you answer that, I'd like you to also add the fact that what sort of interventions? Now, we've talked about banks not wanting to put their money into the agricultural space. So what sort of interventions will farmers get for them to be able to, of course, expand and be able to bridge the gap of imports?
First thing first is, well, this administration did mention about the River Basin and the Ministry of Agriculture working together closely, which I've advocated for years.
Yes, true.
Now we need that implemented. Now the fundings needs to go to the river basins. Without increasing land charges, tractorization, we need the river basins and the Ministry of Agriculture to work together. And I know they have a better relationship now than like 2 decades ago. So bottom line is that can happen. But we need it to be focused on youths. We need people who will not compromise standards to manage these projects. If not, it will be the same story. But when you implement on river basins, there are defined lands. You can secure it. They can work together as a cooperative. People talk about pilfering, people stealing their projects, produce. You can't steal on river basins because while you are farming, while you are spraying, somebody is plowing. While somebody is plowing, somebody is harvesting. So there's always somebody on the farm, and there are so many. Labor is cheaper around the river basins. I've done river basins for over 2 decades now, almost 3. So bottom line is that we're closer, but we need to move faster. But not just faster, we need the political will. We need the president to be on top of this, okay, where there's weekly, not 2 weeks, not monthly, because what we have vis-a-vis climate, vis-a-vis the challenges against October, November, end of October, November, we need things to happen. But we need to focus more on the youths in the rural communities, children of farmers, and youth in the rural community. That should be the focus. And what the language they speak is not the online language.
Yes, sir.
It's not the online language. All interventions over the years, almost spanning 3 decades now, is always online, apply online, instead of cascading it down to them. And for us to do that, river basins and the lands around the river basins, that is our low-hanging fruit. If we miss it in the next 2 weeks, it will. Nigeria is not in a food crisis yet. Nigeria has food scarcity. October, November, if we're not proactive about this, that is when the crisis comes, but it can be averted. And I say this administration still has the opportunity to work an economic miracle in agri sector. We've seen it happen in Okitipa oil palm. We've seen it in Odakoko. We've seen it in Araromiobu. These are institutions that in 60 days, 90 days had a major turnaround. The data is there. We can and some of us were part of the turnaround. So I'm saying that it has been done. It just needs to be scaled. But a lot of commitments need. Some people will lose their sleep just working inside out to get it done. But for them to do that, they will need a strong political will.
Africa Farmer Mogaji, food security expert. Honestly, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Have a great weekend. Let me get a handshake.
Thank you.
I'm already planting. I've started planting too, at least. That small one. You said everybody must have something.
Yes.
You must have something in your house. So we started doing
for your
that.
Mental health.
Yes, at least to cool it down. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much.